I'm doing some call tracking with her business, but I'm not on the main number of the website. There's like call tracking coming from Facebook. There's call tracking working in print marketing, but I'm not tracking anything from like a Google ad or other places. And I would really like to get that in line. I know how to work call tracking numbers, but I don't know how to get them involved with Google Analytics.
So I always use a third-party tool called CallRail.
Yeah, that's what I use.
It will automatically send the data to Google Analytics for you.
Okay.
And I guess so will their support, like, is it just like you'll put in the thing and it'll send to it, or you need to like check with their support and make sure everything's set up right?
I had to use their help.
Okay.
Database.
But their help is
rather
good.
than contacting support.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, especially for you,
Yeah.
who are all you're all more technically savvy. So it shouldn't be intimidating. There is like, you have to tell it, I want you to integrate this with Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Otherwise it won't.
Okay.
And so I think if I recall, there was a weird little typo in their help documentation where, because again, I want my goals to be as close to new customers as possible. And if you don't set up a goal right for call tracking, it will literally count as a goal every single time someone calls a number. What I really want is the first time someone calls a number. Now, theoretically, I suppose I could take credit for every time someone calls the number and take credit for repeat business, but it just seems a little, that seems inflationary. Like it seems like I'm taking credit for too much. What if they call back because they got our answering machine? I don't want to take credit for that. So I set it up to track the first time someone calls. And there in the documentation, there's a little typo. And I forget what it is offhand. But just look at it really carefully, test it, and you'll see what it is and do it. But that's what I do. And you just have to, within the back end of CallRail, say, I want to connect this to Google Analytics. And I think one of the things I would do is check to make sure after you install CallRail, everything is reporting right. So you'd look at Google Analytics and make sure it's reporting right. If it doesn't, I think your CallRail has to be within the same container as your analytics. So if you have CallRail if you have CallRail on the website and you have Tag Manager on the website, that's two different containers. So you have to have CallRail and Google Analytics in Tag Manager, or both outside Tag Manager. They have to be in the same container to communicate.
Say that again.
So if you're using Tag Manager,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you have to have CallRail in Tag Manager with Google Analytics, or CallRail might not be able to send data to Google Analytics because the codes aren't in the same container.
Okay. Okay.
I ran into some problems with that, but just double check. What I would do is set it up and then a couple of days later go back and see if it's reporting right. You know, you could confirm because within CallRail you can log in, you can see whether phone calls coming in or not.
Yeah, and check with
analytics. And if there's an inconsistency, then make sure they're in the same container. So I don't use the CallRail WordPress plugin because I typically put my Google Analytics in Tag Manager.
Mm-hmm.
If you can add Google Analytics Tag Manager, you can add CallRail Tag Manager.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And I think there's a setting within CallRail, Tim, where when you set up phone numbers, you can say, I want this dynamically on the site rather than statically. So it's not just like a tracking number for Facebook or a tracking number for print. And so you have to buy a pool of numbers based on the average length of time of a user on your website. And the documentation will show you how to do that. I think like there's a minimum, you have to buy 4 numbers at least. But under the smallest plan, it should cover that. And it's, I forget offhand how much it is. I think it's like $35 a month or something like that. Which, yeah. For showing a client how valuable your work is, that's $35 is well spent. If I can show the client how much value they're getting, I'd spend that. But yeah. Does that help answer the question? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry.
I was thinking for a minute.
So then, yeah, you create that number in CallRail and then change that phone number site-wide on the website. But how does that react with just search? I mean, how does that?
You're not adding a number on. You're not buying one number through CallRail. You're buying a set of numbers from CallRail.
Yeah.
And so CallRail will detect how someone found the website and will serve a number from your pool of numbers that you've purchased. It will randomly assign them a number from the pool you've already selected. And so it knows that visitor found you from that. And when they call that number, it can say they found you from organic search, they found you from referral, direct traffic, whatever. And then when they hang up, that number goes back into the pool. And then the next time someone visits, it might show a different number from your pool. So you shouldn't have to hard code in fact, you shouldn't hard code those numbers onto your website. You should.
That's when they're working dynamically, yeah.
Yeah, let the CallRail script cycle through your pool of numbers and show the number so it knows this call came from this source because that was the number I showed to this user at that point.
All right.
So that's how it attributes it. Now, there could be, and sometimes clients have problems with this because if someone writes down a phone number that they see on their website,
Right.
they call it again, it could create some confusing data. The good news is that the confusing data is only confusing to us reporting, but the user, it goes straight into the client. So even though it's not technically the number from the website they've written down, it always goes to the client.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you stop CallRail, the client can purchase those numbers. And that's one of the nice things about CallRail. So
Yeah,
if they
that is.
got to keep going, they can just keep using those numbers. But
Just
then
a
again,
lifetime purchase of those numbers, or is it still a monthly fee for those numbers?
I think you get so many numbers per level.
Mm-hmm.
And once you purchase them through CallRail, then you control them.
Port them somewhere, I guess.
But you can port them, but once you port them, they will no longer be under your CallRail thing, so you have to pay whatever the service is into which you're porting them.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Also, to just add to the CallRail thing, and I am not sure how this works with their pool of numbers, but your Google My Business, if you're doing that, make sure your CallRail, you can put more than one phone number in Google My Business. So your CallRail should be the first one because that's what people would call. And then your second number in there is going to be like your local number. And that will make sure that the citations and all match up, having it in there as that second number.
So what I do is I purchase a local number that is a static number. I call that the website number. That is hard coded on website and used in citations.
Mm-hmm.
Then I purchase a pool, and that pool gets substituted out. So that way I put the hard coded number in Search Console,
Okay.
And so that means even if someone's on Yelp and calls the number, it comes in CallRail as a website number.
Okay.
And so I still get recordings of those, and I still get.
Yeah, I think some do specifically to track just Google My Business, because that's, they get a lot of traffic and want to know just that. They
Right.
then would do a separate hard-coded one for Google My Business.
Right. Yeah, you could, that would be the way. I think CallRail works really well with Google Analytics.
Yeah, it does.